I'm Julia Palmerola, and it is a privilege to address you today on behalf of Metropolis, the World Organization of Major Metropolises. This session marks the culmination of a four-part webinar series, each playing a vital role in the European Project Clearinghouse. Over the past 2 weeks, our discussions have spanned topics such as urban forest planning, governance strategies, and engagement of civil society in their planning and management. Today, we delve into a more technical webinar, concentrating on the critical aspects of protecting and restoring urban forests. As you may know, Metropolis recently approved the Strategic Action Plan for 2024 to 2026. Within this framework, we have committed ourselves to steer metropolises toward a profound unity with their natural environments. Indeed, our commitment to this cause was demonstrated through the recent organization of World Metropolitan Day. This event placed a spotlight on the transformative power of nature in shaping metropolises. It was actually a reminder that our urban landscapes are not separate from the natural world, but totally connected with it. I just wanted to extend my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you who has accompanied us during these past 2 weeks. Your presence has been a source of inspiration, and the journey ahead may be challenging, but with our shared commitment and collaboration, I am confident that we can shape a future where metropolises worldwide thrive in harmony with their natural environments. We can't wait to keep raising this topic internationally. I hope that you enjoy today's session.
Thank you, Julia, and hello, everyone. Hello, good morning, and good afternoon. As you most probably know, this is the fourth webinar in the webinar series within the Clearinghouse project, focusing on urban forestry. And throughout the first three, we had a very good participation from different time zones and from different parts of the world. And I'm looking forward to having the same experience throughout this final webinar. I'm Dorsa Sheikh-ol-Islami. I'm the Nature-Based Solutions Program Officer working with the International Union for Conservation of Nature, known as IUCN, and I will be the moderator of this session. We also from IUCN are very happy to be part of the Clearinghouse project because, as always, we all know that urban areas are one of the top drivers of the degradation, and they have the most focus on the well-being of human beings, given that the majority of the world population are settled in urban areas. This is also reflected during the outcomes of the last IUCN's World Conservation Congress and as part of the IUCN Marseille Manifesto. There is a huge focus on integrating nature in urban areas. And urban forestry is the best entry point to do that. Throughout this, this is the final webinar, so I need to do a little bit of wrapping up too and to connect the dots. We started by talking about how strategically we can integrate urban forestry in the city planning. We continued by focusing on the governance mechanism and how to empower strong and meaningful participation with all the stakeholders. And now we are focusing on, okay, you have your urban forest planning, you are moving forward with implementation. How can you maintain and basically take care of your urban areas within the cities? It's a pleasure to have our three speakers with us here who will share the technical aspects of this. All of them, I've had the pleasure to be in previous contact with them, and I know about the in-depth knowledge and that they have about this area. As the researchers, they are moving this agenda forward. And well, you will also have the same experience when they will be delivering the key speech notes and will walk us through the case studies. But before getting into the program itself, let me share a few housekeeping information with you. So As you probably know, this session is available in 2 different languages, Chinese and English, and you can choose your preferred channel by clicking on the globe and then going to the language that you prefer. Don't forget that the session is being recorded, and don't wait for the discussion part at the end of the session and throughout the interactive sessions. Continue adding your comments, your brilliant ideas, and the questions in the chat, as I see you're already using it. Okay, let me just quickly talk about the structure of the session. We will have our opening, we've had our opening remarks from Julia, who amazingly has organized all of these sessions, and it's been a pleasure working with you. Then we will have our keynote speeches delivered by Magdalena Biernack and Jakob Cronenberg, that you can already see with their cameras on. They will talk about the important elements for an effective maintenance of urban areas. And we are also honored to have Dr. She live with us, which will bring them the aspect and the experiences from the Chinese partner of the project. We have 2 interactive sessions, and which we will use Mentimeter. We will take the suggestion from Clearinghouse, and we want to have the participation with all of you through these sessions. And as usual, there will be a space for comments, questions, and discussions at the end of the session. Well, feel free to reach out to us throughout this 1.5 hours. And let's get started. Magdalena, Jakob, you have the floor, please.
Hello, hello everyone, and welcome to this 4th webinar. It's a 4th webinar, so we should avoid repetition, but I think some things need to be mentioned perhaps again, because they are very important as a background to what we are going to talk. We are going to talk about protection and restoration of urban forests. But to talk about protecting and restoring urban forests, we first have to say a couple of words about what an urban forest is. And this is what I'm going to address first, and then I'm going to move to some basic challenges, most important challenges related to managing urban forests. And why this basic question is important? Obviously, because if we don't know what an urban forest is, we don't know what to protect and restore. And it's sometimes not as easy as it sounds, because the understanding of the phrase urban forest is not clear and it's not anonymous. First, within the Clearinghouse project, we associate urban forests with everything that is covered in trees, or basically everything that is vegetated areas in cities. So this is a very broad understanding, but it is essential to understand urban forests in a broad way, because otherwise we miss many different components of urban forests. The concept of an urban forest in this sense links perfectly to the concept of green infrastructure that has been promoted by the European Union and other important stakeholders. And it focuses on the fact that it's not just a single patch here, a single patch there, but it is a properly connected system, and that it has multiple different components. So let me illustrate this with the case study of our city, mine and Magdalena's, Łódź in Poland, or Łódź as it's sometimes called. And in these 2 pictures, you can see the formal green spaces, which are formally recognized, and they are protected as such. But this is not really all of the urban forest in this city. On the left side, you can see forests and parks, which are the most highlighted components of our urban forest. And on the right side, you can see allotment gardens and cemeteries. But as you can see, these are just small patches here and there. But unfortunately, this is what green spaces are associated with in most of the discourses on this topic. So what we need to do is to look more broadly at what are vegetated areas in cities. And here is what we did in Łódź. We investigated what all the vegetated areas are based on different sources of data. And we found out that obviously there is much more than those highlighted formal green spaces. If we look at the most complex data, then we see that the green spaces or the vegetated areas or the urban forest actually covers up to about 60% of city area. And this is based on our geodetic data and also based on remote sensing. And this is not an exception. If we investigated all 17 major cities in Poland, and we found out the same pattern, that basically formal green spaces account for about only one quarter of our urban forests, and the 3/4 of our urban forests are informal, which means a huge difference. And it also means, when it comes to planning, that very often most of what is an urban forest gets overlooked. Within the Clearinghouse project, we studied this in more detail in a case study area in our city. And we selected this river valley. The river flows from one peri-urban area to the other peri-urban area on the other side of the city. And there is also a small tributary here to the north. And this river illustrates very well, or the river valley illustrates very well, the complexity of green spaces in cities. We distinguished 17 categories of urban green spaces here. And like in the previous study, we found out that basically the green spaces, the vegetated areas, or the urban forest covers 60% of this area. And 3/4 of this, again, are informal and only 1/4 formal green spaces. When it comes to these informal categories, let's have a look at some of them. Private gardens, for example. Well, it's an informal category in the sense that no city authority deals with private gardens. Of course, they may have some influence on this, but they hardly ever benefit from this opportunity. And they leave it totally to at the discretion of private owners. But this may be a mistake. Then there are schools, churches, business areas, which all have their own green spaces. There are brownfields, and you have heard a lot about brownfields in the previous webinars, and you will hear more about brownfields because they are an important topic for restoration of urban forests in the next part given by Magdalena. And of course, there's also arable land, which is prevalent in many cities, but it is still not a green space category or an urban forest category, even though many of those arable lands in cities are now undergoing secondary succession. So basically, I want to recap this part with the reference to the 330-300 rule, because it makes perfect sense here to note that it doesn't matter at all whether the 3 trees that a person can see from their home are formal or informal green spaces, formal or informal parts of an urban forest. The same for tree canopy in a neighborhood. It's always the tree canopy. It doesn't matter whether it's formal or informal. So we really need to extend the understanding of urban forests in planning. And this makes a perfect link to the big challenges that we need to address when we talk about these things. The first, obviously, is that we need to consider urban forests broadly. And this links to institutions, and it also links to perceptions to how we perceive green spaces in cities. So here I want to refer to the framework that we proposed in a different project called Enable. And it illustrates how the flow of benefits from the different components of urban forests to the beneficiaries, the city inhabitants, are mediated by the 3 filters. perceptions, institutions, and infrastructures. And obviously, whether the benefits are realized or not, or how these urban forests are managed, depends on these three filters. Let's have a look at each of them separately. When it comes to perceptions, it obviously matters whether these urban forests are perceived as such, whether they are perceived as an urban forest. And this was the point that I raised before. The next thing is that the perception of an urban forest or a perception of each tree may be very different for different people. Some people may see monsters instead of trees, as you can see in this picture. And this really makes sense because when people are given freedom to do whatever they can with their trees on private land, for example, different things may happen. And this is what we observed in Poland in 2017, when we had a kind of a semi-experiment that was carried out by our national authorities. The national authorities liberalized the Nature Protection Act and gave private owners full freedom to deal with trees on their private land. And the result was a peak in the number of trees that were removed in that period. Actually, in that half a year when this was in force, as many trees were removed from our urban forests as in the 9 years of the decade when this took place, which we observed. So this was quite an interesting case of how things may go wrong if institutions are not enforced to protect the urban forest. And obviously this resulted in the in the Minister of the Environment getting this golden chainsaw from grateful developers and lumberjacks. And then the third filter next to perceptions and institutions is infrastructures. And this is something that is very often mentioned in this context, that there is no space for green spaces in cities. There is no space for an urban forest, or that a city is not an urbanized area. But as you know, it is. 60% of the city area may be covered with trees or other vegetation. And the same goes for waterways, for example, or for rivers. In many cases, we have seen rivers being restored, like in this smaller town in the Netherlands, where a river was there in the beginning of the 20th century, then it was turned into a road, and then following the protests of the local inhabitants, it was brought back as a waterway, as a canal. Obviously, this is not a typical urban forest, but it is something that is indeed improving the quality of life more than the road in front of people's houses. And there are many studies like this one in Australia where people are trying to investigate where there is space for green spaces in cities. Here, the Tammy Crosser and colleagues looked at redundant parking places in the city center, and they thought about removing car parking places and replacing them with vegetated areas, and especially an urban forest. So it is possible, and this is something that indeed happens in many places, like here in our city, in Łódź, in Poland, where as part of the urban revival project, trees are being planted everywhere possible in the city center. And these are often quite big trees. So to conclude, what is an urban forest? Basically all vegetated areas in cities. And this is what we associate with the urban forest-based solutions that these are just trees and only trees, but they can solve lots of problems. But we need to think about them as a properly connected system. So when we consider what to protect or what to restore, the most important thing is connectivity between different parts. And then when it comes to the challenges refer to preferences, the major challenges refer to preferences, institutions, and infrastructures. And the final thought here is that it is basically much cheaper to protect than to restore urban forests. And this will be more clear perhaps when Magdalena gives her part of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jakob. Magdalena.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Magdalena Biernacka, and I want to talk about the second part of our presentation. The introduction will be held by Jakub, and I want to go to the protection and restoration part. So the answer is how to maintain and improve your urban forest. Short table of contents. So I want to talk about restoration and rehabilitation and different barriers, challenges, and possible solutions connected with the restoration and rehabilitation, and also different methods to address the above barriers. And I want to move to conclusions, very short conclusions. So first, the most important thing, it's the main barriers connected with restoration and rehabilitation. So first of all, we can talk about lack of funds or high costs of this process, of these methods. But the city can claim that they don't have funds for restoration and rehabilitation, but the city can obtain these funds, for example, through the different projects like Horizon projects, like in Clearing House. So we can obtain the amount of money because of the different projects of or grants. Another barriers can be poor cooperation. So it's also poor cooperation between different units in the city office, for example. But also poor cooperation between city office and, for example, researchers or different NGOs. So we should engage city office to cooperate with different units, with different stakeholders. And this is also a good example of a cooperation, for example, in different projects, like in Clearing House. So these two barriers, a lack of funds and poor cooperation, we can also connect with this institutional filter, which Jakub said before. Another barriers is awareness and knowledge, but it's lack of awareness and lack of knowledge among, of course, city officials, but also citizens and stakeholders. So it's important to encourage them and organize different seminars, workshops, and give them the basic knowledge and information. And the last barriers, the last but I think also very important, is different priorities. So the city often have different priorities connected with the management and planning of the city. They, for example, focus on new investments like new shopping centers or parking lots, but they don't care about the natural environment and new green spaces. So I think there's different priorities. This is very important, and change the priorities for the city officials, for different stakeholders, is crucial. So I go to the methods, different methods connected with the restoration and rehabilitation. So first of the methods, it's of course new plantings. So in terms of new plantings, we should focus on local conditions. So look at the local soil, climate, rainfall, and different conditions connected with these plantings. And also, it's very important to look for the native species. So choose them and look for this native species one. And the barriers connected with this method, it's of course lack of knowledge and deficient management. So we like city know that new plantings is very important, but after the plantings, they just forget about these new plants and don't care about them in the proper way. So it's very important to educate them about the proper management and caring of the new plants. And one example of the very interesting, I think, it's the Miyawaki method, and it's also method and also good example what we can handle with this new urban forest. So first we should plant densely, mixing as many native trees or potential natural vegetation as possible. So we choose a lot of different native species. And approximately after 3 years, we have kind of natural selection appear, and we have the most adapted ones and develop different species of trees and shrubs. And after 15, 20 years, we have very dense and beautiful area of trees and shrubs. So I think it's very good and kind of natural method. And we can see here the example of this method, how it's look. So the planting start in October 2018. And after 5 years, only 5 years, we have this dense area of vegetation with different species of trees and shrubs. Another method, very important also, is creation of ecological corridors. So these ecological corridors enable to natural connectivity. Of course, ecological corridors for different species, different animals. This is very important to create this natural connectivity for them, but also natural connectivity for inhabitants, that inhabitants can freely move from one point to another, for example, by foot or using bicycles. So barriers connected with this method, I think it's what I said at the beginning, different priorities of the city. They focus on new investments like new housing estates, and they just forget about this natural connectivity. But also very important is lack of awareness, lack of knowledge about this ecological corridors. What does it mean for different, for example, animals and species in the city and biodiversity? Another method, it's that we should care about that organic matter. So we should leave that leaves and that wood in the park in urban forest. And for example, very important is to eliminate leaf blowers because it's very expensive and also impact on climate change. So we can just eliminate leaf blowers, leave the leaves in the parks and urban forests, and that encourage that organic matter. And of course, the main barriers connected with this method is lack of knowledge and efficient management. So city office and stakeholders, they just don't know about the consequences, for example, of using leaf blowers. And sometimes they think that it's very costly to provide that organic matter, but it's really, I can say, easy and not cost at all. And another method is soil reclamation. So we can say about technical reclamation and biological reclamation. And it's, for example, strengthening the escarpments in the city, draining wetlands, provide, of course, fresh soil, and with fresh soil also humus. And we can provide humus, for example, by planting also new plants. And this is a very easy way to obtain humus and obtain fresh soil in this area. And of course, there are a few barriers connected with this method. We can say that it's a high cost. And like in the terms of different methods before, it's very very often the lack of knowledge and cooperation between city and other stakeholders, for example, researchers who can provide different important information and also use these methods. And the last method is restoration of water reservoirs. Of course, it's not urban forests or urban green spaces, but water reservoirs, they are part of green spaces. So the restoration of them is also very important. So we should create and think about ecotone zones and also buffer vegetation. And also we can create in the water reservoirs floating islands. And it's very important to create these floating islands or buffer vegetation because they work as natural filter for the water. And also floating islands can be a very nice place for different water species. And of course, we have few barriers connected with this method, like high cost and lack of knowledge, and also cooperation. But when the city cooperate with, for example, researchers, and I can say that can find good solutions and good proper methods to obtain that and restore this water area. So also cooperation in this term is very important. And I move to conclusion. Conclusions connected with this methods and with this restoration and rehabilitation process. I think that it's very important to thriving ecosystem. So for example, just let the nature spontaneously flourish, and sometimes ecosystems they just can going by themselves, and this is very important, like in the Miyawaki method, for example. But also in restoration and rehabilitation, it's very important to encourage biodiversity, and this is increasing biodiversity is very easy by leaving, for example, dead wood in the forest. But also it's very important to encourage resilience connected, of course, with climate change. And also by restoration and rehabilitation, we can create new and very attractive space for inhabitants, but also for other species in the city.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Magdalena. Thank you very much, and thank you again, Jacob. It was a very interesting presentation, and I already see that we have requests about access to the recording of this. It's a good time to let you know that all the recordings, as well as the presentations throughout these 4 webinars, will be uploaded to the Clearinghouse webpage, as well as you'll be notified by email. So keep an eye out. I think it was a very good demonstration of how complex these different components are and how it impacts the different aspects of policy making, financing, governance. But we will get more into that in the Q&A session and the discussion part that we have at the end. For the interest of time, let's move on to our first interactive session. You'll be able to find the link, in the chat, you have 2 links now, one to the Clearinghouse project itself, and the second one will redirect you to the Mentimeter webpage. Please click on the link. I will give you like 10 seconds to make sure that you are there. Let us know if everything is going okay. Okay, we already have 3 people there. And you see the question here, how to maintain and improve your, that will be related to this. The code itself, so if you've already got the link and you need to have the code is 6253 1, 7, 6. So I repeat, I see we've got 15 people there, 16, 17, okay. So the code is again 6, 2, 5, 3, 1, 1, 7, 6. Okay, let's go. We'll have 3 questions here. Let's go with the first one. And I love this representation of different like personas. The last time I think I was a burger and I was very hungry. It didn't help. Okay, our first, you've got around 20 seconds now. Among the main methods associated with restoration and rehabilitation process, we can include, what do you think? So basically, when we say we want to integrate nature into our decision making, what do we mean? Okay, I'm happy to see that the majority of us have all of them. So all these different activities are entry point for us, whether it's planting, whether it's restoration or maintenance. So going back to the definition of nature-based solutions, there are actions to protect, conserve, and sustainably use and manage. So it's covered. Let's move on to the second question. I hope everyone has already eaten. Okay, the second one is about restoration and rehabilitation, enhanced ecosystems, bolster city resilience, support biodiversity, and create attractive recreation spaces. Is it true or false? Well, I think we had the answer to this at the conclusion that was presented by Magdalena. Okay, good. Amazing. Thank you for participating. And the final question is, if we allow people to remove trees in their private lands, they will remove them. What do you think? So we had the results of the study that was shared by Jacob. It's a tricky question though. Okay, 5 more seconds. Yes, no, it depends. Which one? Okay, I agree. I'm happy that we also believe there is hope and awareness raising and empowerment is a defining factor here. Thank you very much for your participation in the first part of the interactive session. And now we get a little bit more technical. We already have a lot of technical and data, technical knowledge and data that was presented up to now, but let's hear more from Magdalena that will run us through a specific case study in Europe. Magdalena, you've got the floor. Magdalena, you're on mute and we are still not able to see your screen if you've shared it already.
Yes. I try to share. Oh.
Okay, perfect. Yes.
Sorry for
no
that.
worries. Great.
Yeah. Sorry, I can. I cannot see the.
So
I cannot choose this.
So right now it's not on the presenter mode and it's not on slide.
Yes. I try to change that. Sorry for a minute. Oh, okay.
It's in your left corner.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
No worries at all.
Yeah. And okay, so I just want to continue my my presentation, I can say, and move to this different aspects connected with the restoration and rehabilitation. And I think it's very important to see good examples, a few good things what we can do connected with this restoration and rehabilitation process and using different methods, which I said before. So I prepare for you a few examples. Biomass Park Hugo and Natur Park, they are from Germany, and Drinka River Park and Zakrzówek from Poland. So the first case, very interesting case, is Biomass Park Hugo. And Biomass Park Hugo is a former mine. And this is a former mine from Gelsenkirchen in Germany. So after the closing of this mine, the city residents and also a city office, they give the opportunity to create their community garden. So it's very good example of community garden and encourage biodiversity there, but also there's a place for living laboratory, I can say, with energy trees planting, and also very nice place for education for nearby students and schools and kindergarten students. So now it's very nice and attractive place, space for different species, for vegetation, and popular among local residents. Another example, it's a nature park. So it's nature park in Germany, in Berlin, and this is park created in the Rhine rail depot, and I think it's very interesting because first we can observe them. The natural successions. So natural successions took place there, and after that, the city decided to create this nature park and leave the rail installations, and also introduce there, for example, different art installations. So it's very good combination of natural ecosystems, encourage resilience in the city, but also with kind of old infrastructures and art infrastructure, also very attractive for inhabitants and for tourists. And another very interesting example, I think, it's we moved to Poland, to Krakow. So it's Drinka River Park. And the Drinka River Park, as we can see, it's kind of a very wide natural park in the so-called the Green Ring of Podgórze. So we can say that it's a part of this green corridor, green connectivity. And this is a very interesting park because, as we can see in this picture, it's around this park. It's a very dense buildings, multi-family and single-family buildings, but also shopping malls and parking lots. So it's a very high pressure on this park because of new investment, new developers, but also very high pressure because of the residents, because some of them just want to see their very dense infrastructure, for example, tennis courts, And this dense infrastructure and the use of park can damage this wild environment and impact harmful for these different species in this green area. So I want to say about the Stowarzyszenie Drwinka. So it's the Drwinka Association. So it's the association of local residents who try to protect this very important wide area. And I think it's a very good example of or participation of civil engagement that people can encourage and have the impact on the protection of the space and try to prepare the space and protect them in the best way that they can. And another example, the last one, it's Zakrzówek, also from Kraków. So it's a former quarry, and I think it's very important because after the quarry stopped, the quarry stopped being using. There are flooding. We can see that in the few years there is a flooding of water. And a few years ago, it's just a water reservoir, but it's kind of dangerous water reservoir, and swimming there it's prohibited. But in this year, it's moved, and the city office buy this space and create this kind of very interesting new recreational equipment, like the swimming pools, which are floating on this water reservoir, and also create around this water reservoir very nice recreational equipment, patches for cyclists and restaurants. So now it's a very interesting and popular place for local residents. And that's it, and thank you very much. I think I choose quite good and interesting examples for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Magdalena. It was indeed very interesting. And I'm seeing there are some comments and some questions in the chat that we will address in about 5 minutes. So prepare yourself and take a look. But let's move on to our second case study now, which will focus on the experience gathered from the city Jeonju. Dr. Lee, are you with us?
我在线，但是我这边摄像头有点问题。
Yes, I'm online,
Hello.
but I have some problem of my camera. Can you hear me?
We can hear you well. So please feel free to share your screen. It's a pity that there is this issue with the camera, but yeah, if Clive, I don't know if Clive is here with us or not, but he will highlight, the impact that technology has been having on us. So please let me introduce you to Dr. Lee while she shares her screen for her presentation. She is the Deputy Director of the Jeonju National Ecological Observation Station with more than 10 years of research experience in forest and landscape architecture. She has plenty of experience in project communication and project management within an international and diverse network. Dr. Li took part in a sub-project Biodiversity and Culture Forest in southern China and adaptation management training for Wulong Natural Reserve project. So I also invite you to ask any questions you may have, because this is the perfect opportunity. Thank you, Dr. Li. You have the floor, and we can see your screen. Please feel free to start.
今天很高兴有这个机会。
Today it's my pleasure to be here to share with us our projects in Guangzhou. So today I'm going to focus on the system of Guangzhou City Park. Guangzhou is a city of 3,000 years of history. It's an important city located in south of China. In modern times, we started to build parks from the 1950s. So in the beginning, the design was to combine Chinese traditional park with park of European style. So from 1960 to 1917, we start to have a good planning, the pattern of the city. The idea is to make the design based on the characteristics of the city and the resource that we have. Now this is the general introduction or the structure of our parks. Now you can see we have different types of park. We have 217 total. So 14% are comprehensive parks. So these parks featuring multi-function and the scale. And then we have specialty parks, for example, botanic gardens or zoos. Then we have 42% of the community park. 27% are recreational park. They are small parks located in community streets. They are smaller than the comprehensive parks, and they provide service to the local residents. In 2022, we have already constructed 1,360 parks. In terms of the whole space system planning, we can see the geography features of the city. So in the north, it's wide, and then we have narrow down to the south. Our purpose is to have forest and green coverage alongside the city, and then we establish some corridors to connect different points of the city. So our plan is that until 2035, we will have 6,320 hectares. The coverage of the park will be 90%, the service of the park. So this is basically the context and background of the city park planning. So in terms of the city center, we can see that we have one ring. So you can see the one ring covering the city center. So the green ring, then here we can see we built two belts of the water belts. So these two water belts connect with the green ring, which covers the small mountainous areas in the city center. You can see that we connected these green areas into net to cover the whole city. In terms of the green space system planning, we categorize them into ecosystem park, city park, community park, and recreational park. The eco park are like 70 or 50. And city park, we have 120, and we have 300 community park and 1,050 small community recreational park. in general, we have like 3 layers that are a green island, green walkways, and city community green walkways. So in this sense, we can see a general overview of the system general overview of how we plan the city green areas. We have covered in our plan the combination of water and mountain. We also put in our plan the consideration for children's playground. Then in our planning, we also consider the species selections, the biodiversity. Guangzhou is located in subtropical area, so we consider the local characteristics and choose the tree species to propose a large areas of green coverage using local species. Now, I want to show the construction, a city park construction in Guangzhou. Our purpose is to build a city of park, which featuring green areas for public recreation and the low carbon model. Our purpose is that until 2025, we would like to build in the city center majorly composed of comprehensive park and supported by community park and recreational park. So basically, we have 4 levels. You can see the bigger park and from parks of large scales into small scales. And also, we would like to include, as I said, the water factors in the system. So this is like a general overview of how we design the city park system. Now we can see, now here are some examples for the specialized parks. In the past 10 years, more or less, from 2015, we started to build children park. So this children park are of city level and also of a community level. This is the system of administrating the children park. So in these parks, we provide function and opportunity for some family activities, for some educational opportunities. These area allow children to be educated, to learn from the nature, and also to have some entertainment activities. In this aspect, we also consider children of different, for example, children with autism and children with other kind of difficulties. And we would like to care about their special needs. Then we have another specialized park. The theme is the environment protection. So in these parks, we use this area as an educational area for sustainable development and environmental protection. This is a case to combine the park with educational purpose of environmental protection. Then another project is to promote the upgrade of our parks. We have some old parks, and they don't have, they're not
a lot
well
of old
equipped.
parks. So we have implemented upgrade plans to improve the installations infrastructure to make the spaces more comfortable, more attractive. We can see in these pictures that in the past there were no seats in the parks, and after the update, after the renovation, we have seats for for the citizens, and we have more comfortable infrastructures. And since 2018, we have launched the mini park project. So we have made use of every centimeter of land to create green spaces so people can have green view everywhere. At the end of 2022, we have built nearly 300 mini parks, and some of them have some specialized parks. Some of them are in Chinese style, some of them are thematic parks, and they are very popular among the citizens. Despite of their small size, people have the chance to get close to the nature and get relaxed in these small spaces. So it's a very popular measure. And Guangzhou is also a city famous for its flowers. And so we focus on that, and we have created spaces with focus on on landscapes with flowers. We also organized expositions, and it's very representative. We can see that we also have a water market of flowers. It's similar to Vietnam, as we are close to Vietnam, so we have something in common. All these events, we organize them in our parks. Perhaps you guys also know that we have traditional festivals, and there is one very important festival with lights. And recently, in the recent years in China, we also want to promote the traditional Chinese culture. We organized different events in our parks. People are dressed up in the traditional dress, and it's also very popular among the citizens. Here I would like to talk about the flexible utilization of park space. We use the park spaces to organize concerts, and in some parks we organize activities for the retired people. In this photo, we can see that, well, it was in September of this year. We organized an event near to the venue of a summit. People did square dancing there, and also the foreigners participated. We also organize natural education in parks. In recent years, our city collaborated with other governments and the cities. We launched a lot of programs, so children can come to observe animals, insects, and they can receive environmental education.
We
also have new media information service. For example, we have a navigator for the public to know where you can see the most beautiful flowers in our city. And there are also information about different types of flowers and where you can find them. We also have seasonal flowers map. It's well connected with our traditional culture. In the recent years, we also have organized park camping services. Here we can see the maps for camping, and in some parks you can use camps, and sometimes you can do picnic. So actually, the parks are a great space for people to relax. Here we can see pictures. We can see images that people are relaxing in our parks. We also pay attention to the services for the citizen. We have created convenient service stops and also some service stops to provide to provide some public services to the citizens. And the last chapter is about the construction and the construction standards of our parks. From 2015, we have created several standards about the construction, planification, and the management of parks. So we can see here the list of all the standards we elaborated in the past years. Due to the time limit, my presentation has ended now. If you have any doubts, if you have any question, you can feel free to contact me. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lee. A very interesting presentation with amazing pictures. It's very and good to know that all these examples of creating green spaces and using them for impacting the livelihood of the citizens, as well as at the same time providing opportunities for awareness raising, community interaction, and familiarizing the children with nature from early ages. Thank you again. I see that there are many different questions in the chat, and there are some very interesting discussions ongoing here. And with Magdalena, I don't know if she is still with us or not. She has to, I'm sure that she cannot be with us until the end of the session, but I see that she's already taken, she's about to leave. Thank you, Magdalena, for taking the time and sharing your knowledge with us, and thank you for responding to many of the questions in the chat. I would like to invite Jacob and Dr. Lee to share their thoughts about some of the questions we have received. The first one is, my apologies, due to lack of space and congestion in urban areas, should any specific space be allocated to urban forest in city planning? What are your thoughts on this? Maybe Dr. Lee? Maybe we can start with you and then we go to Jacob.
按我们现在的就是在广州这边的一些实践来
In
说的话，
our case in Guangzhou, well, actually in Guangzhou, we have limited space for construction, especially in the center of city. I think every big city of the world has the same problem. So we have different solutions. For example, we can do like 3-dimension greening. So it's like a vertical greening. So we can put green plants in vertical buildings. In that way, we can also increase the greening rate. I think Singapore is a very good example for that practice. In Guangzhou, in some old areas, the space is very limited. So the urban forest is smaller also. And in other districts, the spaces are bigger, so we can implement more urban forests. So in the practice, we will take into account the local characteristics.
Thank you very much. And Jacob, you already highlighted a little bit in your speech about, finding spaces within the city.
Yes, I think this is this is indeed something that is very, very often forgotten. That if when we think about where to create new green spaces in cities, we tend to forget, or planners or some ordinary people tend to forget, that there actually are lots of green spaces in cities that just should be properly managed and made part of this green infrastructure. And this often concerns some unused pieces of land in cities. And the problem here, though, is with property rights. And this is one that is most often, and I highlighted these three filters: perceptions, institutions, and infrastructures. And here we refer to both infrastructures, lack of space, and institutions in terms of property rights, because there may be some space, but there is a need to negotiate with private owners, or maybe to buy out land from private owners to reconstitute the linkages or to protect the linkages that there are. For example, when in a densely built area, there are some places which are not developed. They may be reused as pocket parks, and very often they are spontaneously vegetated. And these areas are used by people from the neighborhood for recreational needs. At least something like walking the dogs, or for teenagers to hang out. These places are still important, and they play important roles. And they are also important islands or parts of this nature connectedness for insects or for birds. But they are forgotten. And this is the point, that they do not have to be forgotten, that we need to look for this kind of places to make up for the missing links in the properly protected, in the properly connected network. And I think that there was another question that was related to this topic: are green roofs part of urban forests? Well, maybe not directly. They are rarely green roofs are covered with trees, but there are different types of green roofs. There are some that have trees. There are some that have just low vegetation, and there are extensive green roofs which don't have any vegetation or minimum vegetation, like mosses or lichen. But the point is that this is something that supports the broader urban forest. So in this sense, it should be connected. And within the Clearinghouse project, we have emphasized this, that these are supporting areas for the urban trees. So even if it's just a lawn on a roof, or even if it's a lawn on the ground, then it may be perceived as part of the urban forest, as a supporting area. And indeed, this is also how they are interpreted in the FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN, in their urban forestry program. So this I wanted to highlight.
Yes, thank you very much. In both of the responses, I think it's very important to take into consideration the existing synergies. The example of the green roofs, maybe one individual green roof does not contribute ecosystem connectivity and integrity, but them as a group that holistic approach can enable achieving many of the re-greening targets that different countries and regions have. Thank you again to both Dr. Lee and to Jacob for sharing their wisdom with us and sharing their experience. For the interest of time, and again, please, if you still have some time, there are still some more questions in the chat. If you have the time, feel free to respond to them. And there are some very interesting discussions ongoing there. One of them focusing on adaptive management as a means for continuous design within the management period. But let's go to our second interactive session here before we close this webinar. I am giving the floor to Julia, who will moderate this section. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, again. For this second interactive session, we wanted to put the participants in the shoes of someone who has to manage an urban forest. And in order to do that, we have created two scenarios that we would like you to address. So if Israel can pass to the next slide, please. Okay. The initial situation that we have is that the urban forest that you are managing is facing a problem related to the lack of water resources for trees, and the survival of some of them is in danger. Regarding this situation that we have to address, we have three possible options that we can see in the next slide. Israel, if you can. Okay. The first option would be to install an efficient irrigation system to ensure tree hydration and promote biodiversity. The second one would be capture and store rainwater for use in urban forest irrigation. And the third would be establish a community water conservation program to reduce water demand in the urban forest. In order to decide what to do, I would like one participant that thinks that the best option is the first one to please give us a little explanation on why. So if someone wants to address this, him or her can raise their hand or just put the mic on and speak. Why would to install an efficient irrigation system to ensure tree hydration and promote diversity would be the best option? If you are super shy, you can say it through the chat, but it would be nice to hear from you. And to break the ice, if not, I could ask Jacob to defend this option. Why would to install an irrigation system to ensure tree rotation and promote diversity would be a good solution? Okay, well, we have one hand raised from Ahmed Onimisi. The floor is yours, Ahmed.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning. Joining here from Lagos, Nigeria. I would have go for the install an efficient irrigation system to ensure tree hydration. But I think this is not cost effective. It's not cost effective in the sense that some organizations or community won't be able to manage these irrigation systems. So in Lagos, what we did is go to waterworks. We'll get a tanker that will go to waterworks and come down to the town and start spraying water on these flowers or trees that are within the cities. So I think it is not everyone that can afford the first options. So because of the cost effective of the irrigation system, that's my own opinion. Thank you.
That's actually a really good thought, and it's so nice to hear your opinion from Nigeria, from Lagos. Since we are focusing on an European and Chinese project, it's nice to also have input from different parts of all over the world. And would someone else would like to share his or her opinions regarding this question on how would them address this? maybe someone else thinks that the best options are the 2 or the 3 to capture and store rainwater for use in urban forest irrigation, or to establish a community water conservation program. If someone wants to say something regarding this, you have just to raise your hand and we'll give you the floor. Okay, Rebecca, Darcy.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm based in Iceland, but I'm from France and the UK. I think that number 2 is a good solution because it can help solve for multiple problems. For example, well, we know that we're facing climate change, and this is also present in the urban environment. So I believe that having as our previous colleague says, a more cost-effective solution is also a great possibility in number 2. But it could also be good to keep the moisture in the forest ecosystem and help prevent issues such as issues such as forest fire or wildfires from actually being too present in the environment. Even though they can't be fully prevented, it could be a nice solution here.
Thank you, Rebecca, for your point. I like that both of you are really focusing on the cost-efficient idea. And I would like to ask if someone else wants to address this. Okay, Marie Curran.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So yes, I would agree with part 2, but I'd also probably include the community in it as well, just to perhaps communicate the importance of water and the conservation of water. And again, just that empowerment within the community and that communication element. So as I say, I would capture and store the rainwater, but I would get the community involved in it also.
That's actually a really good solution because involving the community is important to gain legitimacy and also to make the project more sustainable, but also you would keep an eye on the second option as the best option. Okay, it's super nice to hear from you. There's no good or bad option, so it's nice to have different perspectives on this issue. And now moving to the next situation. Israel, please. Okay, then 5 years later, we have an increase in soil erosion in the urban forest due to the human activity, which threatens the stability of the ecosystem. Okay, having in mind this situation, we have, sorry, we have again 3 possible solutions to address this. Israel, if you can. Okay, perfect. The first would be to implement soil conservation measures such as reforestation and the creation of natural barriers to prevent erosion. The second one would be to implement an environmental education program to raise community awareness about reducing human activities causing erosion. And the third is to establish sustainable soil management practices and regulations to limit activities that harm the soil in the urban forest. So, again, I would like to hear from the participants, which one do you think that it's the best option and why? So if someone has a clear opinion on this and wants to raise his or her hand, we would be more than happy to hear from you. Don't be shy. We're looking forward to hear from you. It has been a whole session where we have talked a lot, and it's the time of the participants to raise your voices. Okay, Maria Cecilia, what do you think?
Hello, good afternoon. I'm from the Philippines, and I think I will choose these 3 options to be combined, because if we want to reduce soil erosion, first we must have to educate the community. We have to raise their awareness so that they will reduce those activities that are causing erosion, and then we will implement various soil conservation measures and also establish this sustainable soil management so that since soil erosion is a complex problem, we cannot just put one measure to address another. But later on, we will see another problem of the soil erosion. That's why it should be a holistic approach to address the problem.
You definitely have a point. These kind of problems are multidimensional, and multidimensional problems need multidimensional solutions. So that's a really interesting point to bring to the table. Okay, and Punch, what would you like to add to this? And Punch, we can't hear you. You are muted. Well, okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
Good
Yeah,
morning.
I was saying I think it's a holistic approach. Good morning, because all the points are quite interesting. But putting in order, I think the point number 3 is first of all to educate the public on these practices, to bring out the regulations, and then the first point takes in place conservation methods, and then now number 2 to educate the public. That's what I think. It goes in that order, because if there is no law binding people from how to use the soil or the environment, then they can misuse it, and we will not have good results at the end. Thank you.
You definitely have a point. Having a regulation, a legal framework for this kind of solution is super important in order to be in the same page. And we would have time to one final comment if you want. See if any participant wants to address this issue. Look, Paddy Daniel said in the chat that policy is very important. In fact, yeah, it is. If I don't know if any participant would like to say something else related to this. We are looking forward to hear from you. Everyone is very shy. Don't be shy. Okay. Well, if not, if you think that this issue has been addressed, which I think it has, the main points have been the holistic approach and also the importance of having a policy framework. So thank you for having participated to this interactive activity. Now I'll give the floor to Dorsa for closing this session.
Thank you very much, Julia, and thank you for all of you who have participated in this session. I saw a few comments in the chat too. It's really nice to hear from you. So we've got 2 minutes, and maybe like as the final words from my side, I want to highlight that throughout this session, we didn't only focus on one aspect. It was urban forestry, but we talked about the nature aspect, the ecosystem connectivity, the ecosystem integrity. We talked about governance. We talked about community engagement. The case study that was shared by Dr. Lee showcased how important and beneficial green spaces can be to people and communities. In Magdalena's presentation earlier, she touched base on the financial aspects of implementing urban MBS and nature-based solutions in the forestry section. And it was so nice to finish our interactive session with a mention of policy. And that's what nature-based solutions is about. It's a holistic approach that bridges the gap between all these different aspects. In our opening remarks, as well as in the keynote speech, we also highlighted the need for establishing cooperation and collaboration. And every one of us, we need to learn together. Without working together, without bringing the knowledge and experience that every one of us have, it's not possible to get to sustainability, which is the motive and the main reason for the clearinghouse project, and the whole, the climate COP is just arriving, and we just want to make sure that we are sustainable, and that's what MBS is about. So thank you again for participating. It's the Friday morning, so it's very appreciated in our time zone at least, or it's even if it's later in the day, then it's really, really appreciated that you took the time. Thanks to our speakers for sharing their in-depth insight with us. Thanks to all of the participants who continuously interacted and engaged through the chat function, as well as the interactive session. And a big thanks to Metropolis for organizing and bringing all these 4 sessions together. Let's not forget that these sessions were organized in line with the 4 guidelines that are about to be published on the Clearinghouse website. You'll be able to read the summary of these guidelines there. It's already available on the website. Take a look, and we probably will have one more webinar coming in January, focusing on the technical aspects of managing green spaces. We are 1 minute over time. I thank you again, and I hope to stay in touch with all of you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, goodbye.
Thank you to everyone.